last segment, guys, this is going to be some more on Quiet on Set. You guys know we talked about that a little while back. It's that docuseries that talked about the darkness of Hollywood and some of the stuff that was going on specifically in Nickelodeon, right? And Dan Schneider was kind of the poster boy for all of that. But they really, in my opinion, didn't go as deep on Dan Schneider as they should have or could have as they did on some other people. Apparently, some of the people being interviewed felt misled about the show. Let's take a look here. This just came out the other day, or just came across my desk. From Deadline, it says Quiet on Set participants claim they didn't know docuseries was for ID. Our stories deserve a more credible platform. I'm going to read this article real quick. It's not super duper long. It says some participants of the Quiet on Set, The Dark Side of Kids TV, are calling out producers of the docuseries for not being more transparent about the project being made for investigation discovery. I'm not too familiar with ID, but for the interview I sat down for, it was not an appropriate network for the show. Former The Amanda Show star Raquel E. Boulay said in an interview with IndieWire, I had no clue it was on ID until 1 or 2 weeks before it aired. Fellow Nickelodeon star and former Zoe 101 cast member Alexa Nicholas echoed Lee Belay's sentiment, saying, I didn't even know what ID was. Honestly, when I looked it up, my first thought was our stories and the conversations that deserves to be had around them are way bigger than ID and deserve a more credible platform, a more serious one. Continuing, it says the actresses say that the creators of Quiet on Set, Emma Schwartz and Mary Robertson, kept the subjects in the dark about the project. Although the docuseries ended up streaming on Max, they filmed their portions before the streamer launched. According to the report by IndieWire, they thought the docuseries was being made by Maxine Productions, and Nicholas said she remembered HBO being associated with it in some way. So I'm going to stop there. So it sounds like they knew HBO was somewhat partnered with them, which they were, but they were still upset because it needed to be on HBO or something like that, but it was. I'm going to get into my confusion on all this as we kind of wrap up here at the end. It says, I feel that the sensationalism was revved up because of it being on ID, Nicholas said. It would have been curated differently and would have been more impactful on another network. Lee Belay added, I'm upset about them keeping it secret from me. I feel like they did that because they knew if we were aware of the magnitude of how big this was going to be, they would have had to treat us better. So it was bigger than they let you believe it was, but you thought it deserved to be on a bigger platform than what it was. Huh? The Warner Brothers and Discovery merger and the subsequent relaunch of HBO Max's Max, which was not great, brought investigation discovery titles to the streaming platform, which included Quiet on Set. I don't personally hold anything against anyone in ID or Max right now, but I do hold something against Maxine because they knew what they were doing, Lee Belay said, adding about it streaming on Max, it just feels like, how can we make the most money and keep this story circulating? That's it, right? Yeah. So I'm completely and absolutely confused by what's going on here. So they thought ID wasn't big enough, but whatever they were working with or whoever they were working with, they thought it had ties to HBO. So that was fine. So then they found out it was ID and it was streaming on HBO and they're still upset about it. So it deserved a bigger platform or outlet or something like that, but they're happy it was, but they feel like if they knew it was, they could have been treated better. Am I just out of it? Am I just completely out of it? It seems like they're talking out of their ass here. Look, while I'm confused on whether they wanted a bigger platform to show this or if it was big enough, or if it was a big enough platform and they just wanted to be treated better, they may be onto something about the truthfulness behind the producers of the series. You'll be hard pressed to find anyone that has something bad to say about Mark Summers from Double Dare. You guys remember that guy, right? Love Mark Summers. And he's been on Double Dare and some other shows. He recently had an interview where he shared his thoughts about the docuseries.
I have a question on a completely different topic because you've done 100 things. You've talked about all of it from Double Dare to Unwrapped, and now you're doing this play. I most recently saw you in Quiet on the Set that just came out.
Oh my.
How was that? being able to talk about all of that, was that like a cleansing feeling to you to finally be able to say like, hey, I wanted to advocate for these kids and I saw what was going on?
Let me tell you about that. You're going to get an exclusive here.
Yes.
I got called by these folks saying they wanted to do a documentary on Nickelodeon. And so I said, sure. And I went there and they asked me what I thought of Nick. And the first 10 or 12 seconds, from what I understand of this documentary, are me saying all these wonderful things. But they did a bait and switch on me. They ambushed me. They never told me what this documentary was really about.
No way.
And so they showed me a video of something that I couldn't believe was on Nickelodeon. And I said, well, let's stop tape right here. What are we doing? Well, we're doing this thing. Do you know this guy? And all this kind of stuff. And I left. Okay. So I got a phone call about 6 weeks ago saying you're totally out of the show. And I went, great. Then they called me about 4 weeks ago and said, well, you're in it, but you're only in the first part of it because you talked about the positive stuff of Nickelodeon. What they didn't tell me, and they lied to me about, was the fact that they put in that other thing where they had the camera on me when they ambushed me. And
no way.
Yeah. So now we get into a whole situation about who's unethical.
That's a very interesting. I had no idea. I was wondering about so many of the interviews that they've done and how they did it.
Yeah, as I stated before about this docuseries itself, I mean, these people seem to be kind of running cover for Dan Schneider. You know, never truly going deeper into all of his report allegations, but they went deep enough to create the smokescreen to get us engaged and agree at all the right people. While I do feel some of these former child stars were looking for, you know, an opportunity to relaunch their careers or another 15 minutes of fame, especially in episode 5. I mentioned that 2 weeks ago. Episode 5, not worth the watch. They turned it into something it didn't even need to be. But I still think it was great that they did this project. I think it was great they pulled this information out. It's stuff, again, that we kind of already knew, but it solidifies this. Anytime you can kind of like put a stamp of authority on it and say, this is someone who was there, this is someone who experienced it, this is real, here it is, it adds some gravity to it, right? And so it doesn't make it any more true or any less, you know, believable if it's this or that. But when you see it broadcasted like that, you can't help but say, dang, something really did happen. And again, most of us already knew this, right? But now you've got an organization, producers or whoever, that put this together, which is great. But they may have been unethical in how they put it together, which is not great. And then you've got other people in the mix that are trying to look for, not Mark Summers, but other people that may or may not be trying to look to expand their fame a little bit further as much as they can. It's a very interesting mixed bag. But I will say again, on behalf of the producers, I don't think they went as deep or as hard on Dan Schneider as they could have. They did on Pickle Boy and some of these other guys, and I almost forgot all about Dan Schneider for a while. But yeah, I think it was a lot darker, a lot deeper, and they wanted to run cover, maybe distracting from something else that could be going on or coming out here in the very near future. We'll see. We'll keep watching.
Hey guys, thanks for checking out this clip from the Morning Mayhem. Remember, this is just a portion of the full show that comes out every Friday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. If you hadn't already, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the full shows or these tasty little nuggets.